come. He may attend the full lecture. When otherwise, he may come after 8.
Okay.
That's what he told me.
Okay.
Yeah. So Arjun, can we start now?
Yes, we can start, sir. You want to start, lead, or you want me to go ahead?
No, I'll just have a brief intro and then you can take on.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So welcome all. It's good evening to some and good morning to somebody else. So it's a very auspicious day today, being a Teachers' Day. So we are presenting Arjun. Arjun is an alumnus of 93 batch computer science. So Arjun will be presenting a lecture on knowledge economy. So without any more introductions, I'm inviting Arjun for the speech. Arjun, please.
Thank you, sir. Always glad to be back to college and meet you all. Only when we talk to the folks in the college do we feel young. So thank you for this opportunity, sir. And it's Happy Teachers' Day, and we have a lot to be thankful for. So without further ado, I'll go right into the topics. Look, I can speak in Malayalam. I'm very fluent in Malayalam. But having lived in the United States for 25 years, the first thing that comes to mind is in English. But please feel free to ask me questions in Malayalam or in English. Don't hesitate. Sir, I will. Let's make this interactive. So, Krishnamar sir, I will. If you have a question from the audience, I can't see the questions. If you can stop me and ask the questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah, I think I'll ask you one thing.
Yes,
sorry. Would you like to present for the full time, or would you like to break the presentation after 20 or 30 minutes?
We can break the presentation.
We can collect the questions, and I can pass it on to you.
Absolutely. So I have 3 sections. We can talk about 3 major sections. I can talk about the personal journeys. I can tell you what I've seen in the past few years. We could probably stop there, and then I can talk to you about the other stages of industrial revolutions that we are seeing. They're actually going through a change, and then the next part is what do we see going forward, like the 4th and the 5th generation, actually more like the 5th and the 6th generation of the revolution changes. So happy to do that. And we should have plenty of time for Q&A.
Yeah. So I think after the first session, you can just pause for a bit and you can invite the questions. Then I can pass on the questions to you.
Yes, sir. That sounds good.
Thank you. Thank you, Arjun.
Thank you very much. So on my personal journey, I passed out in 93. I don't remember the exact date of it, but I do remember that right after the Viva, I went to Bombay because I had a job in Bombay. Started my career, right out of school, writing code. Built a lot of software for a company called Bentley, Nevada, which is now GE Systems. This was in Seeps, Andheri. So learned a lot during my first job, and I want to touch upon that a lot because if I look at it, there are career-changing moments in a people's life. And usually the first 2 jobs are very important, sets the foundation for what you're going to do going forward. So learned a lot from Bentley, Nevada. This was when Windows was first coming up and formed the basis of software engineering going forward. Then went on to do a lot of things in core software engineering. I worked for Sybase, which is a database company. I don't know if people still remember this, because if people only remember Oracle at this point in time. But Sybase, Ingress, these were all very, very well-established companies during that time. Then moved on to a company called PeopleSoft, again, was acquired by Oracle. Then moved on to another company called BEA Systems, which is all in middleware. So what we learned is how to build complex middleware, systems that will run 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. How do you build those kind of systems? So learned a lot about that. And all you'll see is that it's an evolution. Software is always an evolution, or any engineering is an evolution. You build on top of what you have learned. And so that is my things on pure software engineering. And then I realized that I had to move into entrepreneurship. That was my passion to move into entrepreneurship. I learned entrepreneurship. I have to emphasize the word learned, because we don't come from an entrepreneurship background. Unlike certain communities in India, I have a lot of respect for them, and I don't mean it in any demeaning way, like the Gujaratis and the Sindhis and the Sikhs. They learn entrepreneurship from the very beginning. we unfortunately in South India do not learn entrepreneurship. We do not learn accounting. So I had to learn entrepreneurship. So the foundation of that was I was a head of engineering from 2005 to 2009. Learned a whole new business about online and internet economies of that. Then in 2009, I saw an opportunity, and that was when social media was coming. I'm talking about Facebook had come in 2005. It had opened up in 2007, and in 2009, I saw an opportunity in a certain segment in that, and that was advertising in that. I created a company in 2009 called Compass Labs. Compass Labs was acquired by Yahoo in 2013. So it was a moderate exit. It was not a great exit. It was a moderate exit. So I tell people, again, I learned a lot about, what I joke around a little bit is I learned many ways how not to do a company. So lessons learned and then moved on. But I've been doing entrepreneurship since. So 2009 onwards, I've been doing a few companies. I worked for a brief stint in Twitter. This was before they went IPO. So specifically about Baton, I started the company in 2016. And we have been going. It's a very interesting thing that we do. What we do is we synchronize and orchestrate the movement of money between banks. So again, learned a lot from talking to extremely smart people. Learned technology. I mean, because I had a technology background, I saw that I could solve this particular problem, and we've had it's not, I wouldn't say it's a tremendous growth, but we've had a very, very steady growth over the time. So we are close to 50 people now. We have offices in California, New York, London, and Chennai. So that is my career journey. On my personal front, I'm married to Indu Lakshmi. She's on the call actually. If she could turn the video on, she could probably just say hi to everybody from our alumni. Indu is 95 batch computer science. So the school has given me more than just an education. We have two daughters, Durga and Divya. Durga goes to University of Southern California, and Divya is in 10th grade. So this school is very special. You will learn. You may not realize what you're getting, the education that you're getting from the school. In the moment, you may not feel it, but you will realize that the friendships that you make, the relationships that you have with professors, go beyond just that. I mean, I remember Krishna Kumar sir. You are you're probably the youngest professor at that time. I remember having so many interactions with you. I know you've talked to thousands of students, but so many interactions with you. But this is special. You don't get that in other schools. There are differences between us and the IITs and others, or even the universities in the United States. But what you're going to get is not exactly that, but on the whole, it is actually quite comparable. So do not in any time feel that your education that you got is in any way, shape, or form less than something else. And I will touch upon that in a little bit. I'm happy to take questions on that. So again, with that, I will go to the next slide. So I'll tell you a little bit. I want to spend a little time on this. I will tell you about the trends that I saw in the past 25 years as I've been working in software, right? So let's talk about it in three broad segments. The first one is around the workplace. The second thing, we are starting to see the workplace change. And the reason why the workplace is changing is because the market is changing. What I specifically is that the time to market, the time it takes to bring a product to market has shifted pretty dramatically. And that shift has caused a direct impact on the workplace. And anything that impacts the workplace will impact people. And people, by means of people, it is a personal growth. So I will touch upon three broad areas. Then I will pause, and then I will take questions on that. So please understand this. We're actually in an interesting phase. So the reason I specifically picked 2008 is because of the financial crisis. So every time you go through a crisis, you go through a change. I mean, it forces a change. And this coronavirus is forcing a change. So you will see the next phase of it. If I have to put one more, people will say post 2020. You will certainly see that because life has changed. Workplace has changed. Everything has changed since 2020. So 2008 was a big one. Actually, and the reason I said 1995 was when the internet came. So you could go back 20 years and then say 1995 was a pivotal moment when internet started coming and businesses changed. So before that, I mean, again, I started off when we started seeing Yahoo as a startup. We started seeing Netscape and Yahoo and all these companies as a startup. So we started seeing a change in that one. So the important thing is, in a workplace, in the past, you could actually build a career in one company. People would join a company, stay there for 20 years, and that was a norm. That's what you would expect. You would expect a equity in your workplace. And in the project, go on mute.
Sohans, please unmute. Please mute. Sorry, please mute. Sohans Joseph, please mute.
Okay. The next one is also the size of the teams. There were larger teams that was there. Okay. And I will touch upon that one in a little bit. And layoffs were not that common. It was a very rare thing. Having layoffs was not that common. Now shift that to now, right? Just in the workplace. Today, you only want experts. We don't want generalists. I mean, we don't want generalists in the workplace. I mean, in the other place, you actually would hire a generalist and you would grow them. So right now we are looking for, even out of college, you'll say, what have you done? Have you done machine learning? Have you done statistical modeling? Or have you done any internships in specific things? We expect that people know Java. We expect that people know Python. That's like saying that I know how to speak English. But what we're looking for is expertise in that, or information security, or data analytics. And I'm talking about IT. I will touch upon non-IT as well, because that's something that's covered in that. The other one is actually called a smaller focus teams. And I want to touch upon this thing called a two-pizza model. I don't know if people have heard of this two-pizza model. So back in 2005, there are many times in my career where I have been invited to join Amazon as well as Microsoft and Google once. I just thought that once my entrepreneurship journey started, I never looked back on that one. There's an interesting model that Jeff Bezos himself used to call it. It was called the two-pizza model. It basically says, if you cannot feed an entire team with two medium-sized pizzas, then the team is too large. So again, if you cannot feed the entire team with two medium-sized pizzas, then the team is too large, which means that 4 to 5 is the maximum size of a team. You cannot have larger teams than that. And actually, it's a very interesting model that we are seeing, that if you have a team that is more than 5 people, the productivity actually drops. The next part is that right sizing. You always see, Indu works for Cisco, and they have layoffs every 6 months. That's just a constant thing. Every 6 months, there's just a layoff on that one. It's the norm. It's the norm. You go to an Oracle, you go to an SAP, you go to this one. In India, also, you're starting to see every 6 months, there is a weeding out of that, and people don't even think about it. So that is the new change in the workplace. Now, in the time to market, in the past, you could actually wait for some time to build the perfect product. Guess what? There is no perfect product in the market today. It's a continuous innovation that's going on. 3D printing, it's the early days of 3D printing. 3D printing is actually revolutionary. And people who are in non-IT should actually look at 3D printing in a lot. What 3D printing does is the time it takes to bring an idea or to validate an idea has shrunk pretty dramatically. You can actually make a 3D house now. You can make a 3D car. You can make a 3D hand, for robotic hands. So this is what 3D printing has done. What that really means is you can take an idea and you can prototype an idea very early on, and that is what it did, which means that the time to market has shrunk pretty dramatically. Every year Apple comes out with a new product. How is that? There is so many new features that are coming out every year. So the time to market has shrunk pretty dramatically. What does that mean for personal growth? Now, we would say that my father worked in FACT 30 years. You join there and you go on and you retire there. So when he reached his retirement, he gets a watch, and I joke about it even today. So you retired as a watchman. So I joke about that. But that was a lifetime of employment that you looked at. And the other interesting thing is that in your career, your salary started low, but it peaked up to in the 50s is when you made the most amount of salary. Now that is different now. There is no such thing as a stable job. No company can offer you a lifetime employment. No company, not Google, not Microsoft, not Amazon. Nobody can give you lifetime of employment. Okay, what we need to say, and I want to insert a word here and come back to it, what you should be looking for is not a lifetime of employment, it is lifetime of employability. Okay, it's not a lifetime of employment, it is a lifetime of employability is what you should be looking for. Now, in terms of salary wage thing, you're actually seeing a wage compression. So all of you must be very happy that you're coming out with salaries starting from 5 lakhs. Some people are actually getting much larger salaries. But guess what, guys? Let me break the bad news for you. That salary does not go up that much now. It goes up for only people who are experts. If you're an expert, your salaries go up. If you are not an expert and you're just cruising along, the compression is pretty hard. People earlier in the 50s, you would make 5 times the salary of somebody in the 20s. Today, if you're in the 50s, if you're employed, you're actually good. The difference between somebody in the 50s and somebody out of the 20s is probably 2x, maybe 2.2x. That's it. So it's a huge wage compression that has happened now. Okay. Now, the last thing, if you're unemployed after 45 and you have not updated your skills, good luck today. And let me also tell you the bad news. In your time, post-corona, 10 years from now, that 45 will become 35. At age of 35, you're considered old because your skills, if you're not updated, you're out of luck. So this is the trend that I'm seeing going forward. It's an important trend, so please be aware of this. So I will stop after this slide. How does this play in? Maybe I should just stop. If there are any questions on until this slide, I can take them now. If not, I can continue.
Yeah, Arjun, I think you'll have to continue because I don't have any questions so far in the chat box.
Okay, no problem.
I'm inviting questions in the chat box for the time being.
Okay. So how has this changed in the broader scheme, right? Certain segments have changed pretty dramatically. You think about retail. How many companies were there in the United States in the retail? You had companies that were doing clothing lines, Macy's, JCPenney, and Montgomery Wards, and all of that. You're getting into computers. There was just a whole bunch of slew of electronic shops in that. Today, there's only one, or maybe two. There's Amazon, and maybe you'll find a Best Buy. Same thing is happening in India now. Same thing is going to happen in India. When an Amazon comes in, when a Walmart comes in, guess what? A lot of jobs are gone. So same thing is going to happen in manufacturing. When you start letting these big companies come in, they're going to come in and take over. These companies are like governments. I would say that a Google is more powerful than many governments. An Amazon is more powerful than a government. When these companies, an Apple is more powerful than some governments. When they come in, Coca-Cola, for example, right? Think about supply chain. These guys have, with innovation, with technology, when you take an item out of the shelf, they know exactly how many items are still in the shelf. They know when to order. They know who to order it from. They know when it is going to be put on a ship, when it is going to arrive, and when it's going to come there. It's all automated. So supply chain has changed. So again, these are completely changed. Banking. We work in banking. In Baton systems, we work in banking. This has changed. When very soon will you actually go into a bank? Our parents used to go in and cash a check. Even when we started, you would cash a check and you'd go to the bank and all that stuff. Who does it? Everything is all done on net. So now does it matter whether it's a large bank or a small bank? As long as you provide good online services. Media has changed. Communications have changed. Media has changed. How many of you use Netflix? How many of you go to movies now? Or how many of you watch it from YouTube and Netflix and Amazon Prime? Media has changed. So again, traditional sectors have changed, and this change is irreversible. Okay, so which means that unless you are up to date with these things, and don't just think that it is peripheral, this is pretty systematic. Like media changing, you not going into a movie theater and buying a ticket and buying popcorn has ripple effects in the economy. Okay, and who is benefiting from it? 2 or 3 companies. This is an important thing. So again, you're starting to see a change in just one industry, right? Media. So it is very systematic because there is a lot of innovation that has gone into that piece. And unless you innovate, traditional sectors are going to disappear. Okay, so it also gets a little bit into specifically did not want to put politics in that, but socioeconomics is very, very related. So politics is changing, people are changing, and politics is going to change. So along with all of these changes that are happening in technology and in this industrial revolution, whenever there's an industrial revolution, I'll put it this way, whenever there is an industrial revolution, you have seen an associated politics change, right? The first industrial revolution with textile industries, all of that starting, mechanization starting, you saw a political change. When there is computing science, you saw a political change. You're getting into the third phase of it. Okay, so I did not want to touch upon politics deliberately, but it is very, very related. What you're seeing, the tensions between America and China, is a ripple effect of this. Economy is changing, technology is changing, and along with economics, people's lives are changing, which means countries are changing. So this is all a ripple effect of it. So understand the broader scheme of things that are going on. So don't think of it just as a job that you're entering into the next few years. Okay, this is an important one. Right. I want to give an examples, right? Back in our days, you had to wait for Krishnamasa, you remember this, a BSNL line. You had to wait for 7 years. You had to apply and wait for 7 years to get a BSNL line. Would you even want one now? How many of you need a BSNL line now? No wonder BSNL is going out of business or it's getting sold. Would you want one now? Now, what about if you don't want a BSNL line now? Why do you need a car? Who's going to buy a car? My daughter refuses to learn car driving because she says that, what's the point? I'm not going to ever own a car. I don't want to own a car. It's all on demand. Again, these are systematic change. What does that mean for car industry? What does it mean for drivers? What does it mean for all the suppliers of steel? The ripple effect that's going on. So think about all of these things as you plan your career, because your career is going to start now. It's going to end in 2050. So this is a long thing, and you will see lots of changes going on in the next 30 years. Now, another thing that I always think about is, would you ever want to buy a house? Why would you want to buy a house now and be stuck in one place? So this is the traditional way in which thought was there, and now that thought is changing. People are now thinking about renting by the month, renting by the day. In the case of Airbnb, I'm renting a house by the day. So again, fundamental things have changed in how technology has done, and what that means to the workplace, and what that means to people, and what that means to broader economy. Okay, so that is the broader scheme in which things are changing. I want to draw an analogy. You have you call this a smartphone, and why is it smart? Because you have a lot of smarts in that, which is both hardware as well as software integrated into this phone. Now that smartphone updates its software every 6 to 8 weeks, which means its smarts are updated every 6 to 8 weeks. Despite that, you buy a phone every 2 years. Every 2 to 3 years, you buy a new phone. Now, think about it. Would you ever hire an engineer who's not updated his skills for 2 years now? You update your phone, the smartphone, you update it every 2 years. Now, why would you not update an engineer who's not, which basically means let him go and hire a new one? This is a new thinking. Get ready for that thinking. Okay, I don't want to scare you. I want you to be prepared for it. It is better to be prepared as you enter into this workplace. It is not a scare tactics. All I'm saying is be ready for that change. You are entering into a knowledge economy. You are entering into things where knowledge, like deep knowledge, not peripheral knowledge, but deep knowledge is the only thing that will keep you separate from that one. So this is the broad theme. And I will, after this one, I think we should take a little more questions on this one. So again, while this has happened, I want to say that not everything has changed. Should I just pause? Maybe because I'm entering into a new phase. If there are questions, I'm happy to take them. Okay, no worries. People are silent.
Yeah, I think, Arjun, I got a question.
Yes.
I think it's from Jitin.
Yes.
Apart from updating our knowledge in technology, is it important that we stay focused on improving our knowledge in a particular domain as we go forward in a career?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, breadth of knowledge, while useful in the beginning, as you get further in your career, depth of knowledge is much more important. Depth of knowledge is always more important in that. Early in your career, you want to go broad. But as you go into a career, you will go deeper into that. Again, I want to hire somebody who's an expert in our things. We want somebody who can do, when we look for people, we'll say, do you understand stream computing? Do you understand serverless code? Do you understand embedded analytics? This is what we do in technology, right? When you go into some other industry, let us say, SpaceX or Tesla. Tesla is actually about 5 miles from where I am here. The Tesla main factory is about 5 miles from there. Do you understand do you understand sensors? When I say sensors, it's everything, right? Heat sensors, vibration sensors, speed sensors, all of that. Do you understand sensor technologies? Do you understand vision, computer vision? This is the kind of thing that they will say. Nobody is going to ask you, do you know Java? Java is expected. Or do you know how to code in SQL? No, that's all expected. That's all par. So in the beginning, you need to go broad. As your career expands, pick areas where you can actually go deep. And as you go deep, you will start developing expertises in that. And that is what is going to keep you separate on that. I'll touch upon that. It is not just knowledge on that. You will also have to start developing intuitions. You will have to start, if you have to get into breakthroughs, you will have to read a lot of things and then understand and develop instincts in that one. So this is the new phase. I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, and Jitin has one more extension. That is, he's quoting an example like edtech or fintech.
Yes.
So are they? I think what he asked us, are they good examples?
Yes, they are good examples. So I'll give you, let's take each one. Let's take fintech, for example. So fintech at this point in time, here is a company like Baton, right? We have come in and changed how banks are going to change, are going to move money. What I mean by that is, I'm lucky today, knock on wood, that we have some of the largest banks exchanging assets on the platform. Baton today, I'm saying this as an example, not to do a lot of chest thumping on that. We move $10 to $12 billion a day between banks. You know how much MasterCard does in a day? 6 billion. Here is a company, small company. We're moving $12 billion in a day. Nobody knows about us. This is how we can come in and people who are there in that industry will be completely taken by surprise. There was actually a small company. I'll give you another example. When I started going into payments about 7 years ago, there was a small company called Plaid, Plaid. Plaid. That was 3 or 4 people. I spoke to them in my last company, and I said, these guys are just brilliant, young fellows, just brilliant minds, and they were just hungry and brilliant. Last year, that company was sold for $5.8 billion. $5.8 billion, right? This is how things can go in. And the reason that we do that is you have to be able to go deep and then see what others have not seen. You have to solve a problem that others have not solved. And in solving that problem, you unleash so much efficiencies. And by unleashing so much efficiencies, you've created so much value, so many jobs, that basically means that you're worth so much. And the only people who can unleash it are people who have gone to the depths of that particular problem and seen what others have not seen. I hope that makes sense. You have seen what others have not seen. And in order to see what others have not seen, you should be able to go really, really deep into that one. And that is when breakthroughs happen, right? So if you stay at the periphery and write application code, yeah, it's interesting. And only when you get into the depths of it. This one, I go back to my first job in that one. Quite frankly, at that point in time when we were there, I know SK Mohan sir would be there. It was we were just starting our computer science department, and he was fighting a lot for us to get more resources. We were just starting. So when we came out of college, we were like, are we really engineers? I don't know if you're really engineers. We barely know how to code. So what I realized early on is that you have to be like a sponge. You have to learn as much as you can in your first 2 jobs. If you're going to cruise, you're not going to make it. So we would spend an enormous amount of time. This was when Windows first came in. So even today, I can actually write. Hopefully, I can write code even now. That can go into the depths of programming and say, we understand how the hardware is talking to the software with the drivers and all of that stuff. You have to get into the depths of it in order to build the next level of things. So that is a piece that you have to do in fintech. Now, edtech. EdTech is who would have thought that a few years ago that Byju's, a Malayali guy, is going to create something that is going to change education, not just for India, but also for many parts of Middle East Asia, right? Again, what you have done is they've gone beyond, they understood the dynamics of it. He just didn't build an application. He built a platform. He changed how people in India view education and students are taught. So that is why there is so much value that is created in that. Okay, so these are all irreversible things. Again, this comes into education should be one of the things that we should highlight there. So yes, you should be able to go deep into an area and develop instincts. So remember, developing instincts is only for people who have knowledge at a very deep level and also are in tune with the society. That's when you develop instincts. I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, Arjun, there is another question from Felix Josmon. What are your thoughts on creator economy and working for oneself?
I'm an entrepreneur, so I say fantastic, love it, but pace yourself, guys. If you're confident about these things, I mean, look. You look at a Zuckerberg, and you look at Bill Gates, and you say, hey, these guys can do it. I can do it. Fantastic, power to you if you can do it. Remember, guys, most of us are middle class. Bill Gates was a millionaire before he started it. So was Zuckerberg, a millionaire before he started it. He comes from a very socioeconomically well-to-do families on these things. I don't know if you guys are. You have your social obligations and all that stuff. I love it. I love the fact that you're even thinking about it. But don't look at these exceptions and think that is a rule. These are exceptions. My take on that is, somebody early on said to me, asked me this question. They were just out of college, just a lot of energy, and I said, what do you want to do in 2 years? He says, I want to teach. I want to teach people. I want to take a bunch of people under me. What she was really saying is that I want to be a manager. But she was trying to couch this in certain ways. She said, I want to spread my knowledge to a few people. And my question is, how are you going to teach when you don't know anything? So learn in the beginning. And the creators are going to be people who know it deep and then develop the instincts to create something new. If you feel that you have learned something deep and your instincts are good, the time will come. It will just come. I mean, look, what I have realized is that when you're ready and you have your energies, it just comes to you. People come to you. Money comes to you. It just happens automatically. Don't go behind it. This is a philosophical thing in some sense. You go behind money, you're not going to. If you're going to chase money, you're not going to get it. Do what is right, money comes after you. You go after a career, you go chasing a career, the career just goes away. You be good in that, the career comes to you. So in this particular case, doing a creative thing at the right time, it will happen. But make sure that you develop your expertise in this one. And if you wanted mentorship or any of these things, please email me. I would be happy to give you more advice. Any other questions, sir?
And I think Arjun, Felix had asked one more thing about gig economy.
Yep.
Can Felix come forward and clear that what he is meaning?
Yeah, the
But
gig economy, right?
Felix,
The
please.
gig economy.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I am Felix, by the way. So I graduated like 2 years from the college. So Ajay sir actually shared the call link to join. So I just thought about jumping in, right?
Yes.
And yeah, so the creator and gig economy is one thing I kind of found. Like I worked with this company which helps getting creators get paid. It's like similar to Patreon, like where you can get monthly payments, right? So
Yes.
also one of the trend I observed was gig economy, right? So it's like hiring. I think you already covered that point, like hiring freelancers for the who are like specialized in that particular thing, right? That's the
Yep.
most economical model than having people who have stayed there for like 10 years, right? I think that's the point. I think so. I just want to touch upon the gig economy as a whole.
Gig economy is again, it's a irreversible thing. So you go back to this, the post this one, it's the COVID is actually highlighting that gig economy started back in, I would say, Uber. The reason Uber is started in San Francisco, which is about 20-25 miles from where we live. Lyft and Uber started here. That triggered Airbnb is again Airbnb started in 2010, 2011. It is a kind of gig economy, but basically you're starting to see the next phases of it where people start working for themselves. But remember, there are jobs, there are gig jobs, which is basically commodity jobs, and then there are specialized jobs. So an Uber driver is going to be a commodity job. Anything that is a commodity is going to be replaced. I want to say that again. Anything that is a commodity will be automated. The Uber drivers of today will become driverless cars of tomorrow. Anything that's a commodity will be commoditized and automated. So make sure that you are not taking up one of those careers which is commodity career, which will be automated. Okay, so this is why, and I will touch upon that. So if I can answer that question along with one of the slides, I will come back to this question. So gig economy is the economy of today. Make sure that you're building some specialization so that the gig will continue. Gig is basically your part-time gig, your part-time job. So your gig will continue as long as you're up to date. All right. So shall we go?
Arjun, I think Felix, is it okay?
Yeah, sure.
I think
I'm actually connecting outside the call. Yeah.
And I'll click upon this one. So while I've spelled a lot of doom and gloom, first of all, I hope it is not doom and gloom. I'm just giving you the reality of what you're going to face. You are coming out in 2020 in COVID. Okay, it is one of the most you can look at it in two ways. One of the most difficult of times. One is of the most interesting of times. The tale of two cities. The best of times, the worst of times. You can think of it in either way. You're entering into a world that has changed. You're entering into a world that has changed from last year. But you know what? Look at that as an opportunity. And your career is going to take you all the way to 2050. And you're going to see many changes in that. Be ready for that change. I hope I did not scare you. I'm just giving you the reality of it. Now let us build on what it was. Now that I said that things were all of that, not everything has changed. Okay? Not everything has changed. Remember the basic human needs. We still need food to eat. And that food comes from soil and water. One of the things that I did not touch upon is we still need affection. We need emotional connection. We need friendships. We need love. We need families. Those things have not changed. And if that becomes a commodity, you know what? This world is not worth living in. We still need food to eat. That food is coming from soil and water. Guess what? Population has increased, but the soil and water have not increased. There's only so much earth, and there's only so much oil, so much soil, and so much water. Okay, we are now producing so much more waste. Waste is industrial waste, human waste, all sorts of waste and emissions than we know before, right? So Again, remember the thing that has not changed is the earth has not changed. The earth has not, it's changed in some sense because of what we cause. But there's only so much of that. Humans have not changed. Fundamentally, they've not changed. Okay, so it's the same earth that the forefathers believed in, that our forefathers lived in. Okay, people need to be fed, they need to be clothed, they need to be entertained, they need to be appreciated and loved. They have not changed in that one. The COVID has shown how vulnerable we are as species. You must have seen pictures of how dolphins are there in the Ganges, and there are just wild animals now all over. The only people that it has changed is human beings. One of my advisors and good friends said, I was always worried that man would destroy the planet, and COVID has shown me that it is actually not true. It is man who will be destroyed. The planet will be fine. It is man who will be destroyed. All it took was a few years, few months for us to be under COVID, and Earth came back. Wasn't that fascinating? That was really fascinating. It also showed, it also showed that COVID also showed that distance no longer matters. You can actually be as productive in India. In fact, all of us, to the point of a lot more productive now. I actually tell my teams to take time off now. Don't be at work for that long, because it's actually causing other problems in that one. So my big point is, you're going to see this piece, because the earth there's only so much of it. The next revolution or the next evolution, it's actually not a revolution, it's a forced evolution, is sustainable engineering. So think sustainable engineering. That the way we did things in the past, the way we engineered things in the past is not going to work. So sustainable engineering is coming very soon. Be ready for that piece and be prepared for that piece, because you can actually do extremely well in that sustainable engineering that's coming in front of us. And that's COVID has forced our hand. So what we always say, that if I were to draw an analogy, like if I were to go back in time, if I were to draw one more, there would be one more, which is post-COVID. That post-COVID is an important phase, and during that phase, certain things like sustainable engineering, it will just come forward during this time. Okay. Again, I will touch upon gig economy again in this one. This is not mine. This is something. So see the reference on that one. That picture is not mine. The first one was all around mechanization. So this is classic one. First was around mechanization. The first revolution, the first industrial revolution. You're automating how textile was built, how machines were built, how metallurgy was there. The first level of that, and that happened a few hundred years ago. The second one, and that took a long time, right? Took a long time for that first revolution, first way in which industrial revolution happened. That included mining, it included metallurgy, it included oil production. The first revolution lasted many, many decades. And then people realized, you know what? We need to automate this. We need to make this mass produce these things. A car took many, many, many months to produce. Now we need to mass produce this thing. And the one that triggered that was Ford. Ford came up with the assembly line. Guess what? Not just Ford. The other things that came up, McDonald's came up. This was a revolution on that one. So you basically said, how can I take what I was building and then make it into an assembly line? It was not just cars. Cars is, you think about cars, but food. How do you make food in a certain way? How do you mass produce food? So this was a second revolution on that one. The third one is, we are actually between the third and the fourth, right? So we are actually, people would say that we are more in the fourth. The third one was around computerization. So now that you did the assembly line, you are now computerizing. So the robotic arms started coming in. You started bringing in a lot of very interesting supply chain enhancement, and that was the third phase of it. So I want to tell you about Tesla. You've all heard of Tesla cars, haven't you? You've heard of the car, the Tesla, the famous electric cars. Tesla is about 5 miles from here, and before Tesla, that used to be. When we did our MBAs, we used to learn about that particular factory. It was called the New Neumi. The New Motors is what it was. New Motors was actually a collaboration between GM and Toyota. So GM, you can think of the classic GM, and then Toyota was very good at this part, right? The second revolution was what Toyota was really good at. High quality in mass produce was what Toyota was good at. GM did this, but it had actually other problems. And then when we got into this phase, they basically said, we're going to improve our processes, we're going to improve our systems in that. What they did not do is computerization. They did not put intelligence into that, and that is what happened. So Toyota is actually getting into the point where they're losing out on this. Can you imagine Toyota, first was Ford and GM getting taken over by Toyota, the Japanese ones, and the Japanese ones are losing out to the next generation, which is the Chinese and Elon Musk. I don't know which Elon Musk thinks he's American, but anyway, I not a person that I have a lot of respect for. But anyway, but what he did show is that now it is knowledge. Your car is actually a computer, right? The next one is getting into the convergence. The fourth generation is actually the convergence of hardware, software, and biology. So the way you're thinking about healthcare, the way you're thinking about new devices, the way you're thinking about not just computing devices. You think about, let me take a routine one. How you think about a tractor. You should be thinking about tractor in a different way. How you think about farming should be different. How you think about surgery would be very different, right? So basically what is happening is a convergence of hardware, software, and people. Biology is about people. Biology and ecology is about people and environment and all that stuff. It's actually a convergence. So you do not know when something stops and when something else takes over. You look at cloud technology, for example, right? Some areas that we really understand. Does it really matter what the hardware is? If it's all abstracted away from you, it really doesn't matter. So that it's actually a super convergence of that. Now, this is driving innovations in a whole new area. And we touched upon a few areas, which is all information technology. This means that robotics, artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, quantum computing. I mean, quantum computing has arrived. It is going to change the way we are going to do. Again, I want to bring it back to COVID. They have been able to analyze billions and billions of strains of DNA in a matter of a week. You must have read that one. In a matter of weeks, something that was not possible before. Gene splicing think about new innovations in biotech is with the quantum computing. It's going to it's a beginning of a new era. Okay, 3D printing. If you are an artist, I don't know how many of you think of yourself as an artist. I like to think of that I'm an artist, and I'm an artist who I cannot sing, I cannot paint, I cannot sculpt. What I can do is I can think, I can talk. 3D printing is, for an engineer, this is your canvas. If you're a mechanical engineer, you are an electrical engineering, and you should be looking at 3D printing like it's your canvas. It's your art. It's your imagination. It's your canvas for your imagination. Embrace that. Okay. The next one is about autonomous vehicle. It's a matter of time when all the drivers. 10 years from now, how much of the high-speed trucking, that is interstate trucking, will be replaced by autonomous vehicles? The number of accidents will reduce. All of that will it's just bound to happen. Okay, 5G. We are talking about the capabilities of 5G wireless, and that's going to when bandwidth goes from what it is today to 5x to 10x of that, what can you do? You're going to download a movie in a matter of 2 minutes. An entire movie is going to be downloaded onto this device. It's going to change how you think about entertainment. So these are all irreversible changes. Okay, so don't think about getting a job with Java. That's like saying I know how to speak English. Think beyond that. Now, does this mean that only IT engineers survive? Actually, no. I happened to be there in the last session. And I asked, I said, remember Krishna Kumar sir, I said, if I were to go to start my engineering again, the course that I would take is electromechanical engineering. Because quite opposite, it is not just the IT engineers that are going to survive. This is a new era where if you are good in mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, chemical engineering, civil engineering, production engineering, man, this is your time. Love it. Embrace it. Okay? If you want a job for TCS and Wipro and Infosys, you will get a job. Everybody in Richer Engineering College, everybody will get a job. Think beyond that stuff. I will assure you that everybody will get a job. If you don't get a job in 5 years or 2 years, there's a fundamental problem there. Everybody here will get a job. Don't think job now. Think beyond that job. The hard part is majority of the jobs of TCS, Wipro, Infosys that you get today, if it's a coding job, those code will change. You will get code bots 5 years from now. Those kind of jobs will go away. Okay, so these industries are in for a big shock unless they innovate, right? So the new things are around nanotechnologies. Nanotechnologies where, I have a friend from high school who's actually in one of the nanotechnologies in biotechnologies on this one, where he's got a stethoscope, and it's a computer, the stethoscope is a computer which has sonogram, and you put a stethoscope on your lungs, or actually lungs is the wrong one, on your heart. The stethoscope becomes a CT scan machine. Okay, and immediately you're able to see, the stethoscope now comes with a monitor on your iPad. You can see exactly what's going on inside a stethoscope, right? Imagine what the doctor in Malappuram is going to be able to do with that. Okay, that's a new world. So don't think about just this thing. And how did that happen? He's a mechanical engineer, and he got into a field because he understood sonar. He understood how do you make gadgets and fit those gadgets. The important thing is, how do you fit those gadgets in a small device like this? In fact, much smaller than this. It's actually such a small one. So you know what he said? I'm an artist. That's what he is. So if you think of yourself as this is a new opportunity for you. So don't think just IT engineers are going to survive. In fact, if you're good in a particular vertical, this is your best time. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful time. COVID just forced your hand on lots of things. The economy has changed in an irreversible way. Only the innovative guys, only the guys who can think are going to survive. Okay. Now I said that not just IT engineers, everybody can do well. But you need some basic skills. You need to know how to code. That is just standard. Absolutely standard. So I will say, please geek out. Like, you should be very comfortable on Python, Java, Scala, or any of these things. Like, pick one, right? Pick one, just one. But you should know that. It's like saying, I know how to speak English. So you should be able to code. And guys, I want to talk to you about machine learning. Let me just clear the myth on this thing. This machine learning and all this nonsense that we talk about, it's just math. It is just math and statistics. That's all it is. If you know math and statistics and you know how to code, you can talk machine learning. So brush on what you did on statistics. Brush on what you didn't. You all done for engineering. I don't know how many courses of math was there. Math 1, Math 2, Math 3. Is that a fourth? Yeah, 4, right? You had 4 courses of math. Guess what? It's building on that. Bayesian mathematics is what machine learning is all about, and probability is what it is. You add statistics to it with and probability theory. You've got the basis of machine learning in that. The next one is on data, right? The one who knows how to wield data yields power. Okay, he wields power. The one who knows how to wield data wields power. Think about the amount of data that Google has, Facebook has, and Amazon has. It is enough to bring down governments. The one who wields data wields power. So you should know how to deal with data. So everything that you do, these 3 things build on that. You should just know, a tractor is now a tractor. So, we work with John Deere. Not we. I have friends who used to work at John Deere, and John Deere makes one of the biggest tractors, and Caterpillar makes some of the biggest machinery. Those devices that are out there are sending pulses every minute back, every minute, on the weather condition, what each machine, each component of that is what the health check of that is. Every minute it sends a pulse back. And now they can run this data and find out which one is wearing out faster, right? So this is a new era that you'll be doing. Based on that, with 3D computing, you can actually do certain models much faster and bring these things to market much faster, right? So the next one is actually, this is your imagination. You start developing, once you go deep, you will develop inquisitiveness. Like, this is the piece, as an engineer, this is what you should do. Be curious. Think about a kid who is just learning to talk. Does he stop talking? He just talks and talks and talks, and every day he learns something new. And he asks the question. Everybody, if you have nieces or somebody, now when wish I could bring those times when my daughter was there. Everything that she would ask is why, right? Why do we stop asking that question? Why? At a certain age, we just stop asking the question. We just take it for granted. So develop deep inquisitiveness. Imagine, develop intuition and imagine, right? The question that I have is, the only thing that will differentiate humans from machines, what a machine can do and what a human can do, will be imagination. Even machines can develop intuition, because if you can start developing that kind of data, they can start developing intuitions. So intuition systems are coming. The only thing that a machine cannot do is imagine. So stop. That is what I want to encourage you to do. Imagine the possibilities. I will pause now. If there are questions, I will take it, but I will give you, I spoke at a high level, but now let me come down to very specific things of advice, what I would give for people in the final year. What do you have to do in 2020, 2021, and 2022? But I can pause if I have any questions.
Yeah, definitely, Arjun. I got one question waiting from Dr. Paul. You remember Paul delivered the first lecture of the series.
Yes.
Dr. Paul, he's in Texas A&M. He's from 83 MEC of our college.
I'm just connecting with him. I will talk to him in person as well. Yes, sir, Dr.
Yeah,
Paul. Yes.
so the question is a general one, interesting to all. Can you highlight the changes in internet infrastructure to make it fair for everyone?
Yeah.
The Barlow's vision.
The Barlow's vision. Okay. You're getting to a question that is actually makes the boundary between technology and socio-economic and politics. That's a question that actually is not just a technology question. It actually crosses the boundaries between technology, people, and politics. How many of you remember Facebook wanted to come to India and offer free internet? Do you remember that? I hope you remember. Facebook came to India and said, we want to offer free internet to people. Google came in and said, we want to give free internet to people, and they started doing that in railway stations. You know what the Indian government did? Glad that the Indian government said, go pound sand, get lost. Right answer for that. You could take the stance like, come on, people in India do not have access to this. Why did they do that? Because of this. What was Facebook after? This piece. What is Google after? This piece. If Google, Facebook, Amazon, and MasterCard decide, they can tell you your height, your color of your hair, the color of your this one. They can tell you what pants you wear, what size shoes you do. They can draw almost your picture. That is the kind of data that you have. Now, the reason I say that is this question, it is easy to take a stance that you should make it accessible to everybody, right? And I hope computing technology will be cheap enough that it will be affordable for people. And that's the democratization of technology. Democratization of technology is not just a technology problem. It gets into politics and people. And so those two are not, you can't separate those two. So it's a hard thing to answer. All I can tell you is my intuition on this one. No, we don't like China. Talking high about China in India. Sorry, you got a question?
Yeah, Arjun, we have with us now Professor S.K. Mohan. He's with us now. Yeah.
Sir.
So to continue the questions, the discussion point by Dr. Paul,
Yes.
he's also asking about the insights into decentralization and internet of the future.
Yep.
Definitely, for example.
Yep. Yep. So decentralization is happening, but it has to happen for the right reason. You must have heard of blockchain and decentralization in that. So whenever one of the things that I want to introduce is called the hype cycle. So please Google this thing called the hype cycle. So a hype cycle is like, you have two axes, and then you have a hype that basically goes like this and then comes down and then it goes back like this, right? It's like a bell curve and then it goes back up. It's a monotonically increasing function after that. So every technology, like 3D printing, for example, went through a hype cycle. So you had unreasonable expectation, and the expectation was just peaking like this, and lots of money being thrown at it. But you know what? It didn't deliver. It didn't deliver fast enough, and suddenly it just goes down like this. Expectation just go down, and people just trash it and say this is BS. Nothing is going to happen out of 3D technologies and all of that stuff. And then once it reaches that point, then it comes back up, and then you start seeing new innovations happening in that. So decentralization, while it is there, it is somewhere caught in that hype cycle right now. So blockchain went through that hype cycle, right? There was unreasonable expectation on a blockchain, and then you started seeing that one. This is the point that I would say you need to go deep into a problem to understand the problem and then develop instincts on that. If you just take peripheral knowledge and say, oh, blockchain is going to solve the problem, you know what? You're going to get caught in that hype cycle, and then you're going to go down. So you're going to get funded. If you do a company, everybody who said the word blockchain got funded, but most of these companies just died. In fact, we were one of the companies that basically said, yeah, we maybe not blockchain. But there are interesting things with the blockchain that can actually take something beyond that. So the decentralization is definitely going to happen. It has to happen for the right reasons. We have to find a use cases for the right reasons. I'll give you an example that I'm seeing happening well in the banking sector, and that is around what we call trade finance. I don't know how many of you know what trade finance is. Let me explain that in a little bit. I told you this example of Walmart. Basically, if you take this particular item or this cup from a Walmart shelf, they know how many cups are there. They know therefore how many are left in the inventory in the back. They know based on that, they know how much when I need to order that. When they order that, they know when it is going to be shipped and all of that stuff. So essentially, in trade finance, there is a supplier, there's an exporter, there's an importer. The exporter exports, the importer imports. When money has to transfer between them, and for the exporter and the importer, they have to put it onto a ship, and the ship has to travel, which means that it has to be tracked all along using GPS, Internet of Things. There is banks involved in that. So essentially what you're doing is decentralized. It is not just one party. You have to connect different parties. And now you're talking about not one central party. You're talking about many people that have to coordinate in this. So decentralization is going to evolve. But to say today that this is what a decentralized model is going to look like, I think it's a little early. So my take on that is be aware of these things, understand the problems deep, and then build the technology for that. Don't build the technology and wait for the problems to solve. We have a saying in this one, so it's like a solution looking for a problem to solve. Don't do that. Understand the problem deep and then build a solution for that particular problem. Don't build a solution. So that is my take on that. Decentralization is going to happen. When it's going to happen, the right use cases, don't know.
Yeah, okay. Arjun, there is another one from Saint TB. He's asking, when do you think Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies can be mainstream?
I hope never. I hope never. Guys, don't buy Bitcoin. Complete crap, complete nonsense. Again, don't get caught in the hype of Bitcoin. Understand what Bitcoin does and then do this. People hated me for saying this. I'm right in the middle of that particular thing. Understand what it does and why it is there, and then you find the need for that. Don't get caught in it because everybody is saying it. So the reason I don't want to take this one. This is an area that I know very, very well. If you're interested in this particular one, please follow up with me. The reason is I will tell you why it is the case. I use the word for Bitcoin. That does not mean that other tokens are not good. The one that you should be looking at is Libra from Facebook. Facebook is actually about 8 miles from where I live, just across the bridge. We know the inventors of Facebook, of Libra, very well. I know the inventors of Libra very well. They're actually people that we interact with on a regular basis. That does not mean that it is not Bitcoin. It is new forms of tokenization. New forms of tokenization is good. Taking Bitcoin and jumping Bitcoin to solve every problem is a bad thing. So now you're saying, I have a solution looking for problems to solve. Wrong thing. Understand the problems and say, what is the best way to solve that problem? I hope that makes sense. Okay, so let's go into this one. This, I hope, will be relevant for most of you who are still in school. Please take this one. And this one, I hope you will ask me a few questions in this. What do I do in 2020, 2021, and 2022? So one of the things that is there is called information asymmetry. The information is out there, but not everybody is using that and processing that information in the same way. Today, you have access to the best of information. You have access to the best of teaching materials. You have access to everything. Most of it is actually free, but many people do not know how to use it. So now you're in an area of information asymmetry. Okay, don't let this happen to you. One quick thing that I would recommend for everybody, gentlemen, learn Open Coursera. There are 2 courses that I will tell every single engineer in your 3rd and 4th years, definitely do it. Take 1 course in programming. No matter what engineering you're doing, please do this one. Take 1 course in a language. And the language could be like a Python or a Java or any language or a Scala or whatever. It's your new English. It's your new English. Okay? 1 course in that. And when I say course in that, when you go into Coursera, that course has got Java or Python for everybody. It's a 5 course. It's not just 1 course, it's 5 courses. Please do all of them. The other part, do not pay for it. I don't care whether you have a certification. I don't care whether you have a certification. Do not have to pay for it. You're all middle-class people. We are all middle-class people. That's why you came to Government Engineering College. You got a great education. Don't pay for it. Do that course. The other thing that I would also do is either do something with data, which could be machine learning or it could be data analysis, but do learn that piece on that. I would recommend for everybody has to know these 2 things. Okay, please do this one. The next one is, I told you, if you're in, it is not all about IT. Okay, you don't go after just an IT job and don't just go after a TCS or a Wipro or a Cognizant. These jobs will exist. These jobs will exist for you anytime you want. Go after knowledge. That is what will differentiate you. That is what will keep you employed when you're in the 30s. 50s is considered old now. By the time you are in the market, 35 will be considered old. So don't go into something where you will be old and out of a job by the time you're 35. Right? Be ready for that next revolution that is coming in. This is where understand areas that you're of interest. I hope I wish I had known some of these things, and I'm telling you what I tell my kids, and I'm telling other kids who are in school. Understand what you're interested in. Some of you may know this already of what you're interested in. Many of you will not know what you're interested in, and it's because you're not exposed to it yet. That's okay. That's perfectly okay. Do you enjoy your field? Do you enjoy engineering? Do you enjoy electrical engineering? Do you enjoy chemical engineering? It's a fascinating field, by the way. Even something like a chemical engineering, you're going to get into things like polymer technology, which is unbelievable. You're going to get into material science you're going to send people to Mars and other planets. You're going to get into fields of technology that you've not thought about. So pick an area that is of interest for you. And if you do not know that, look at what Amazon, Google, Tesla, Glaxo, Johnson & Johnson, these are quote-unquote, or 3M, these are quote-unquote the innovative companies. See what they are doing research in. Google is not doing research in machine learning, or sorry, they're not doing research in Java and all that stuff. Yeah, they're doing it, but they're thinking about way beyond that stuff, right? Tesla is talking about how do I mine nickel from an asteroid and bring it to Earth. That is the level of thought process that's going on today. Imagine what it'll be 5 years from now. Imagine what it'll be 10 years from now. So understand and do research what these companies are doing now. What areas are they researching? Okay, pick an area that's interesting for you. There'll be enough internet information on the internet. Again, use your computer for the right things. There's so much information out there. If you go searching for it, you will find this thing, and you will naturally gravitate towards certain things. You're an engineer. That's what got you here, right? You have a curious mind, and find some really top research papers. And I mean that top research papers. You have a ton of research papers which is just not worth anything. Find some top research papers from either a top university or a top industry publications. Read it. You know, when I first read, the research papers, I didn't understand anything. But today I can. And I can not just understand it, I can comment on it. And in fact, the recent ones with where central banks put in something, they ask people like us opinions of it. If you Google my name, you'll find a few of these things. The reason is I developed this over time. Be tenacious on that one. And Dr. Paul, you could probably also chime in on this. Be tenacious of it. When you're out of school, it is not easy to understand these research papers. Read it the second time, read it the third time. Don't give up. Be tenacious on that one. If that interests you, then it is likely that is an area that you have it. That may be of interest. Now go deep, right? First go broad, then go deep. At that point in time, if you develop this, by the time you're 20, 21, you come out of this, you call the company and the interview will be arranged for you. You call them and say, I have done research in these areas. This is my observations. This is my if you can write code, and then here is my GitHub repository. That's a new way of doing it, by the way. If anybody who says that this is what I've coded and here's my GitHub on that, the interview is there. They'll call you. I've researched this based on this test data. All of this, there's test data everywhere. I have researched this, I've done my test data, and here is my visualization, here is what I have done. The interview will come. Following that interview, if you're good, the job will come. Don't go looking for the job will come to you, right? So now go into Coursera. So once you've done the research, go into Coursera, do an advanced course on that. There is enough free material on the internet for all of you to go and discover and rediscover yourself and retool yourself, okay? This is, I hope this is useful and something that you will take to heart. The other interesting thing is also the soft skills. There is one thing that will not change, guys, and that is human-to-human interaction. Okay, that will not change. Human-to-human interaction will remain. I should go back to Malayalam in this one. So, hey, Mandram Padichavan Tandri, Tandram Padichavan Mandri, something like that. When you go into data and you learn it, you are learning a tandram. You are learning a tool. The person who knows that tool is an engineer. The person who knows engineers or the person who can manage engineers is an entrepreneur. You're going to be creating economies. You're going to be creating jobs. For that, you need to understand soft skills. You need to understand people. And so you are actually, see, the good thing about this is guys from Trichure Engineering College, you're actually good at it. You may not even realize it. Most of you are actually really good at it. You may not realize this thing, okay? The people-to-people interaction is actually, you have a leg up. You have your head and shoulders above other colleges because that's what the environment forced you. So you're actually pretty good at it. And be passionate about something. Don't be shy. I have hired 2 batches of engineers. We will be coming back and hiring the 3rd batch of engineers. These guys are actually an asset in our organization. They develop a culture that is very, very positive and very reinforcing, okay? So express. Don't try to impress me. I don't want you to impress me. Tell me what you know. not because of you're trying to impress me. I'm not impressed, because I will keep asking you questions. I use the word I, but somebody who knows something, you don't need to impress them. You just need to keep talking about something in a very deep way. Okay. The next one is know how to develop relationships. That is important. It's going to be very important building relationships over a long time. Okay. Think about this one. Whenever you call somebody, you say there's an automated message that is there. When is the last time you actually enjoyed it? You call your airlines, and then there's this, press 1 for something. Can you tell me your problem? And like, just get me to a human being. That's because you want to talk to a human being. That is not going to change. So develop those soft skills. If you can develop these skills, first you develop these skills. Okay, these skills of computer skills. This is required. Once you do this and you can develop your soft skills by the time you are closer to your 30s, this is important. This is what will get you ahead in life. The other one is required. I mean, that's what you get the hard skills. The soft skills is what will keep you gainfully employed, getting into entrepreneurship. You are able to express your vision in front of people. This will come naturally. Okay. So this is also important on that. The combination of things is what's going to give you a lifetime of employability. Let me pause. I would love to take questions on these two topics before I go into more of the future.
Yeah, there is one from Professor Manoj. That is the newest technologies today may soon become outdated.
Yep.
And eventually be replaced by faster and more efficient tools.
Yes.
That will change the way we design and deliver the projects. So which specific area you think engineers need to concentrate on for a sustainable technology lasting a sufficient time for a career of about 35 years?
I think you read my slide deck, because that's exactly my next slide. That is my next slide. So
I don't think Professor Manoj has read that.
No, but that is my next slide. It's actually beautiful that you asked me that question. But is there? I will touch upon this particular slide. But is there any other question? Because I will cover that in
Okay, there is one other question. There's a continuation of the last one. Yep. That is from Saint TB. He's asking whether the sustainable blockchain economy is possible.
Yep. It is early days of blockchain technologies. Okay. By the way, we built a distributed ledger technologies. So I understand the blockchains in a fairly good amount of detail. But again, don't just take blockchain and see what problems it can solve. That's not the way to solve a problem. Okay. So let me say that again. Don't take a technology. In this particular case, don't take technology like a blockchain and say, what problems can I solve with that? That's the wrong way to do it. Understand the problem and then say, what is the best way to solve that problem and what tools do I have for that? Okay, so that is the way to think about it. So the question should be, what problems am I solving, and will blockchain help me to solve the problem? Not to say, can blockchain be used to solve all of these problems? Now that said, I'm not dodging your question. There are certain things that a blockchain can do. I told you about trade finance. Trade finance is one type of problem that can do. The other thing that we're seeing is things like distributed identity. Your identity. Aadhaar is actually one of the world's best identity tools. It's also one of the, so I use the word, I quote Aadhaar as a successful project. It had some privacy issues. That's a different one. The fact that somebody could actually go in and get a lot of information. So we got the right things on Aadhaar on that. So these are the kind of things that will evolve. So a blockchain where basically you give control to a person to control their identity. Somebody wants to check your identity for getting a SIM card, or to get a bank loan, or to get a passport. So now you get an OTP that basically says that, look, somebody wants to check this. Do you grant them permission to check your identity and query your identity? So under the covers, there may be blockchain in that. So that should be seamless to you. It's like asking what hardware runs on that. It could be seamless to you. So that is the way in which it'll happen. So distributed identity is an interesting thing that is happening. I told you about trade finance. There are other things like agriculture, farm to table. Like, what do you sow? When do you sow it? All the way. I know the people at ITC who built Ashirwad Atta. Imagine the atta that you buy, the amount of technology that has gone into deciding that atta that you make for your chapatis, right? That the amount of technologies that is evolved. They know how much it is going to rain, which field it is. So this is where the blockchains can help you do that. So essentially what this is, it's a distributed ledger, which means that multiple parties have to be able to transact on that. And then, which means, to Dr. Paul's question, it's a distributed economy. So in a distributed economy, you need a distributed system. And so a distributed system will need a distributed way in which you record the data. And that is what the blockchain does. All it is a distributed, remove all the hype. All it is a way to store data in a distributed manner and a platform for different parties to collaborate on that. That is what a blockchain essentially does. So that is where you look at a problem and say, is it truly a distributed problem? Does it require multiple people to collaborate on that? Do you need data to be stored in a certain way? Then maybe a blockchain will help you solve that particular problem. Hope that was helpful.
Yeah, I think Arjun, you can continue with your the last part of.
Yep.
The last part.
So, this is the next one. You talked about what will change in the next few years. This is actually an area that I'm really passionate about. I told you that Earth has got resources only for 100 years or less. By the time your children are, you will also get old. There was a time when Sons and I were in your seat out of college, full of ambition, full of I still remember getting down in VT station and saying, wow, I've arrived. I mean, this is beautiful. I'm so ready. Today, I'm close to 50. You will also be 50 very soon. Or in 30 years, you will also be 50. You will also have children who will go to school. And when they have children, the Earth will not have any more resources if we start consuming this way. Which means sustainable engineering is a necessity. COVID just forced us to think this way. What does that mean? Water supply. Think about it. There is only so much water. Planet is growing people are growing at an unbelievable pace. You will be forced to find pure water. Guess who has taken over all the water in the world? Can you imagine? Sir, Krishna Kumar sir, I'll put you on the spot here. Can you imagine who is controlling water supplies?
Where?
Worldwide. Pure water.
No idea.
Coke and Pepsi. Can you believe it? They are systematically going and buying rights to water. If you do not do something about it, you will have to buy your water from Coke and Pepsi. Talk about power. So if there's only so much water. The next war is not going to be fought over oil. The next war is going to be fought over water. You're already seeing that. The next world war is going to be fought over water, not over oil. Which means that there is only so much. This is an essential resource on that one. So start thinking about the technologies that will be there to make sure that this will continue for a long time. Desalination, better conservation, recycling of non-potable, non-drinking water, right? So all of these things are going to be important. Along with that comes energy, new forms of energy, right? You need energy to power everything, every single thing. You're consuming energy at an unbelievable rate. Fossil fuel is there's only so much fossil fuel. What does that mean? You need new powers of that. Is it nuclear? I don't know if it is solar, because I'm not sold on solar. I'm not sold on wind. Wind just take the amount of overhead for that is so large. These are the areas when if you can innovate, you're going to be multi-millionaires, if not billionaires in this thing. Think about these things. Food production. Food production. There people are growing. You need to be starting to think about, how do I produce food for these kinds of people? There is only so much land, which means that you cannot have farms like you did before. It'll force you to think about what is the new ways in which you produce food. Is it terraced? I don't know. If it is terraced, how do you get sunlight for everything? These are the things. Do you rotate? There's only so much soil. There's not enough water to irrigate the fields. How do you conserve that? So hydroponics, high-tech farming. These are areas. Think about housing and shelter. The houses that you have in 5 cents. I mean, earlier we used to have large lands. Now large lands, large houses, and all that stuff. Now people are building houses in 3 cents, 4 cents. Guess what? Even that will not. Even there'll be no land for even that. How does housing look in the next 15 years? Will people even buy houses? So think about those kind of things in that. Transportation. I told you, will people buy people buy cars? Maybe not. What does that mean for high speed public transportation? What does that mean? Okay, you travel in metros. Okay, good. 70 rupees to go from Alua to Ernakulam. IT guys can do it. Can the local guy do it? You know it. You know the problem. Has Metro been a success? Fantastic success in terms of infrastructure. Right? Has it really helped the common man? I don't know. Maybe it has, maybe it has not. Start thinking about these kind of problems, right? Waste, sanitation and waste. These are the areas that I think about now in terms of, I probably have a dozen ideas to start companies. Sanitation and waste, something that keeps me awake at night, that basically says, how can I build a business around waste management in India, in developing economies? People have disposable incomes. They don't want trash to be sitting in their yards. People will pay, if it is reasonable, people will pay for disposal of trash, getting pure water, good drinking water into their house. People will pay for that one. Okay, sustainable natural resources that basically see lithium, nickel, not neon, nickel. One of the scarcest resources right now is nickel. Not steel. Okay, not steel. Nickel is a new one that is there. Polymers. You're going to be building stuff in polymers, low weight, high strength polymers. So that's why steel is yesterday's steel and concrete is yesterday's technologies. People are looking at polymers, high strength polymers. The problem with polymers is it is indestructible. So you have to there is new breakthroughs that have to happen. Okay, so we call this a cyclic consumption. You have to be carbon neutral in this particular thing. So you think that this is IT jobs? No, these are not IT jobs. Think beyond IT jobs. There is no safe job anymore. There is no such thing as safe job anymore. So the only thing that will make you safe is how current and how relevant your knowledge is. That is what you need to be thinking. Okay. Mohan sir, I will pause now. We'll take your more detailed question.
Yeah, I think Arjun, Mohan sir is not here for the time being. We are trying to call him.
Okay, no problem.
And getting back, some connectivity issues. That's why.
Okay.
So I got another one as an extension from Professor Manoj.
Yes.
That is, there are legal and IPR issues.
Legal
that engineers, the legal and IPR, intellectual property right.
Okay.
Issues that engineers need to be aware of in product development. Many ideas from our land do not gather international limelight because of lack of awareness in this sector. Where do our graduates see information regarding this?
Great question.
I can add one thing. One of the projects in the ideator of our college, it was a modifiable wheelchair. They applied for an IPR, property rights, and they got the first question about that after 3 years. Still not the right to do that.
That is the first question. That is very normal. That is how patents work. So if you know how patents work, I have about 19 patents that we filed for. So we look at that in more detail. So one of it is I'll answer it in a few things, right? One is, how does an institution look at it? Like a college, Trichy Engineering College, how do they look at it? How is it that people should look at it? Individuals should look at it. So let me answer the first part of the question, or maybe I should talk about how patents usually work. If people don't know how patents work, the way you'd file for a patent is you apply for. There are two kinds. One is called a provisional patent, and one is a real patent. A provisional patent basically says, I have an idea. I don't even know if I want to do it. Generally, you say, I could get a lawyer and say, you don't need a lawyer, but it helps. You can actually If you're an engineer, you know what, you can actually do this. I have done this myself. You can go and research enough to put in a provisional application for a patent. And that particular application will give you an ID, and that's all it is. It's just an ID for that one. And then when you're ready for filing for a real patent, there is a certain, you can search this on the internet. You can basically, these are all very well understood stuff. You need to give a very detailed list of claims saying that what is unique about your technology, and what problem are you solving? What is the problem that you're solving? How are you solving the problem? And why is it unique? These are the three components of that. Make sense? What is the problem? How are you solving it? And why is it unique? This is what constitutes to a patent. Usually when you file a patent, the first thing that the patent office does is it rejects it. Almost 99% of the patents are rejected in the first one. And the rejection basically says, we do not think it is unique. So then you go and they'll tell you why it is not unique. And they'll usually, they don't have the time, they'll give you like 8 different patents and say, this is why there is a conflict in this, so it's not unique. So that's when you look at the patent and you say, no, this is what A says. I'm different from A because of these things. And you said this is B. I'm different from B because of these things. So you have to go back and forth. This process, the first set of questions usually takes about 2 years. I'm surprised that it took 3 years in India. It usually takes about 18 months to 24 months. That's very common. And because it takes 18 months to 2 years, I'll tell you why an institution should get, like an Trichy Engineering College should do that. So you continue that process. From the time you file it to the time you get it, it usually takes 3.5 to 4 years. But it's an expensive process in order to do that. I would encourage you to actually research that. If you're interested in it, research that particular piece. But it does take 4 years to get a patent. That's common. What a Trichy Engineering College should do is your ideation lab should register. I hope it's registered as a company. It's a non-profit or an NGO company, whatever that company is, you register for that. The patent should be done on the company because it takes you will not get a patent in the 4 years that a student is there. Okay, so you need to file in the name of the institution and put the engineer's name in that. And if an engineer does not follow through, his name will be removed and somebody else's name will be put in, or his name will be removed. But the patent is always issued to the college, not to the individual. So when we do it as a company, it is always issued in the name of the company, but the inventors are the people, but the beneficiary is the company. So in the case of college, the college should be the beneficiary because it is sponsoring the project. The college should be the beneficiary. The inventors are the students. So that's how you should be thinking about it. Did I answer your question, sir?
I think so. And I think Professor Ajay, who is in charge of the IEDC, can look at these in detail. I think Ajay can do that. Yeah, and I think there is one interesting question from Swans Joseph, and I think Swans is from your batch. I think
Swans is from my batch, yes.
Yeah. So Arjun, can you share any specific things which you learned from GECT, unique to GECT, which help you in your journey other than the 4-year curriculum? That's what I also wanted to ask you.
So Swans is a great friend of mine. One of the things that I go back to is this one. I can't tell you how important this is and how much the soft skills that we learned, how important that is. We came in, we're all middle-class people. Our parents were all just had a regular job. We're all middle-class people. So we had to, there's no way out except this was the only way out. I don't know if that has changed. Now you're all 2 people, income, good family, good this one. But every student in our college was either poor or middle class. And college, Krishnamar sir, in your time, probably they were even more poor, right?
Same way,
right?
Yeah.
That is very important. See, I remember,
we had lesser financial strength in those times.
That's exactly right. But the bonding that you had and the empathy that you developed was unbelievable. I will tell you some incidents that Sons, you will also step in, you should speak about this. There was a student from our school, and we were all, we were all rowdy kids. like all of you are. During our times, we all played politics. We all beat each other up, but we all were very good friends. Sons and I, we were in different political parties. But again, that's what made us really, really close friends. Now we had one student who we did not know that his father used to sell groundnuts, peanuts. We did not know that for a long time. And one day he was pretty drunk and he confessed that to me, that he was so poor. And that is a day then we used to wash our shirts and then hang it in the A hostel top. And we all went to school, we went to class, came back, and all our shirts were lost because somebody came in and stole all the shirts from everybody. Whoever had left it to dry, everybody, some bunch of nomads came in and stole everything. He lost all his shirts, right? This is a poor kid in that. I still remember every single person, we were all middle class, gave him a shirt. In that A-top, gave him a shirt. And this guy suddenly, we developed a sense of empathy for other people, for other human beings. Without even realizing it, we just started developing an empathy. We knew when to fight through politics. We learned, because we played a little bit of student politics, in that we knew when to fight, we knew when to compromise, we knew when to hold to our principles and all of that stuff. That is what others do not have. Somebody who went to IIT does not have that skill. Realize that. That is something that only you guys have. Very few of you have, right? They know how to develop relationships. It is very important to know how to develop relationships. Talk to people. I tell you this, I did not touch upon this video. Gentlemen, ladies, you should watch this videos of Bill Clinton in his 1992 campaign and his town hall debates. Observe, he's going out and meeting people. One politician who used to do that, again, I'm not playing favorites on politics. Rajiv Gandhi used to do that one. When he went and spoke to people, he would look them in the eye, talk to them like it was the only person he was talking to, right? These are soft skills that you develop. Develop true empathy, true caring. When you talk about it, people can detect when it is true and when it is not. Develop true caring for people. That is what I think anybody, I don't know if I'm a great engineer. I think I'm a good engineer, but I don't know if I'm a great engineer. But I think what makes people like us a little unique and where we got a little ahead is the fact that we develop these empathy and soft skills. So that is a piece that I think I attribute the most to Trichy Engineering College.
Yeah, ശരിയാണ് അർജുൻ. അത് എനിക്ക് അങ്ങനത്തെ എക്സ്പീരിയൻസ് ഉണ്ട്. Over the past 40 years in which I am associated with the college. എനിക്ക് അങ്ങനത്തെ ധാരാളം എക്സ്പീരിയൻസ് ഉണ്ട്. During my college days, during my time as a lecturer, and in the immediate past, കഴിഞ്ഞ ഒരു മാസം കൊണ്ട് ഞങ്ങൾ 62 ലാപ്ടോപ്പാണ് കുട്ടികൾക്ക് മേടിച്ചു കൊടുത്തത്. ഈ കോളേജിലെ കുട്ടികൾക്ക് ഫുൾ സപ്പോർട്ട് നമുക്ക് കിട്ടിയത് നമ്മുടെ കോളേജിൽ പഠിച്ച അലുമിനിയുടെ കയ്യിൽ നിന്നാണ്. In a span of 2 weeks, we could raise enough money to fund these 62 laptops. അത് മാത്രമല്ല, ഇത്രയും ലാപ്ടോപ്പ് ഒരു നല്ല വിലയ്ക്ക് കിട്ടാൻ ഞങ്ങളെ സഹായിക്കുകയും ചെയ്തു. So the major distributors and major companies. അപ്പൊ ആ ഒരു മൈൻഡ് സെറ്റും ആ ഒരു അണ്ടർസ്റ്റാൻഡിങ്ങും നമ്മുടെ കോളേജിൽ ഞാൻ ധാരാളം കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്. That's a unique thing about our college. അത് ഞാൻ പല ആൾക്കാരും അത് എൻ്റെ അടുത്ത് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്. Over the past 60 years of the history of the college, it has happened many times.
It is very true. ശരിയാണ്.
അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെയാണ് നമ്മൾ ഇനിയും കൂടിയും നമ്മുടെ അലുമിനി സ്ട്രെങ്ത് we have to take it back to the college in some way. ഇപ്പോഴത്തെ പുതിയ ഈ ജോബ് സെക്യൂരിറ്റീസ്, ജോബ് സ്കിൽസ്, അങ്ങനത്തെ ഇഷ്യൂസിൽ we are trying to develop a mentor system to the college.
You should, sir.
Yeah, enough work has been going on. We are forming teams of teachers who are the ground staff to പറയാമെങ്കിൽ they are nearest to the children. അപ്പൊ അങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരു കാര്യം നമ്മുടെ കോളേജിൽ എളുപ്പം നടക്കും എന്നാണ് നമ്മളുടെ ഒരു ആവശ്യം. We feel and people are coming back to the college for recruitment, like what you have done. അത് വലിയൊരു കാര്യമാണ്.
We will come back
the brand
again.
value of the college.
We will come
Something
back.
great.
And we are very happy with the quality of the people that we have recruited.
Yeah.
I mean, like about Wilson and all of these people that we've all contributed to making that college, all the construction of the college, the improvement of the college. I did not know about the laptops, but the point is we've all contributed to that. But again, that's normal. I mean, this is our college. This is what made us here. So
Yes.
that sense of giving back is natural.
Good. So Arjun, shall we then conclude?
Yes.
You have
So,
anybody else has a question? I don't see any in the chat box. I think I've answered all of them. And Arjun, I think I'll send you all the questions in the chat box.
yes, sir.
So if you feel something can be added to what you've already told, you can add that and give it back to me.
Absolutely, sir.
നമ്മൾ ഈ വീഡിയോ നിങ്ങളുടെ ഈ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ആൻസർ സെഷൻ ആൻഡ് നിങ്ങളുടെ ഈ പ്രസന്റേഷൻ സ്ലൈഡ്സ് അത് നമ്മൾ പബ്ലിക്കിന് കൊടുക്കാൻ പോവാണ്. വിൽ കീപ് ഇറ്റ് ഫോർ ദ പബ്ലിക്. സോ യു ക്യാൻ ഗിവ് us the slides also.
Yes, sir.
As in, yeah. അപ്പൊ നമ്മളത് ഒരു ആർക്കൈവ് ആയിട്ട് വെക്കാൻ പോവാണ്. So this was the third lecture of the series. It is having good support and good publicity. ഇപ്പൊ ആൾക്കാർ അന്വേഷിച്ച് വന്നു തുടങ്ങി എനിക്കൊരു ലെക്ചർ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുമോ എന്ന് വെച്ചിട്ട്.
Very good.
That's a wonderful thing. അപ്പൊ നമ്മള് അതും അതിനുള്ള അവസരങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. I think Professor Ajay James is helping us to do that. ഇനി ഏതെങ്കിലും ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ 1 or 2 questions you can ask directly. You can unmute and ask directly. If there are no more questions, I think I'll request ഞാൻ മോഹൻ സാർ ഇപ്പൊ അവിടെ മോഹൻ സാർ വന്നിട്ടുണ്ടോ? മോഹൻ സാർ നേരത്തെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. Then I think he has left.
Okay.
I couldn't track and get him back.
Okay.
Sorry. So he was very happy to be with us. പക്ഷെ എന്തായാലും സാറിന് എന്തോ കണക്ടിവിറ്റി കാരണമാണെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു കൂടെ നിൽക്കാൻ പറ്റിയില്ല. Anyhow, I request Professor Ajay James to hand over the certificate to Arjun. Ajay, Professor Ajay, please. Ajay, അത് കാണുന്നില്ല കേട്ടോ ശരിക്ക്.
Okay.
We cannot read. I think your screen is being shown with the people. Okay, Arjun, ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഒരു ചെറിയൊരു token of our appreciation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Means a lot to get it from our college.
Yes, we know that.
Thank you.
So with this, I think we conclude the session. Arjun will come back to you about many things. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
because this has to continue. The concepts, the ideas, and everything has to continue. So now I request Ashwini to deliver a word of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. We all have listened to a wonderful lecture. I may like to express our sincere thanks to Arjun sir for giving excellent coverage on this topic and making this session interesting and meaningful. I also extend my thanks to GCT Alumni Association, GCT Development Trust, and IDC GCT for providing us such a great opportunity. I would also like to thank alumni, staff, and students for the active participation and making this a great success. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Arjun.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think Professor Ajay, shall we close?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Ajay, you can come back to us. We'll continue
Okay.
the concept and these programs.
Okay.
Arjun, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And good night from our side.
Good. Take care. Bye.
Yeah.